Hello, everybody, and welcome to our regular Town of Drumheller regular council meeting here. It is 4:30 on Tuesday, April 21st. We're here at the council chambers and remind to everyone that we're on live stream here with our Drum Valley YouTube channel. All right, I guess we go with my proclamation here. Hey, I thought, okay. All right, we do the oath first. Kevin? I don't have it. You got it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. The oath of office for Deputy Mayor. I, Travis Hardy, solemnly affirm that I will diligently, faithfully, and to the best of my ability execute, according to the law, the office of Deputy Mayor for the town of Drumheller from May 1st, 2026 to October 31st, 2026.
All right. We have something to look forward to for you. All right. Now I have this proclamation here for National Volunteer Week. Well, here we go. In this milestone year, recognized globally as International Volunteer Year, people in Canada are invited to ignite volunteerism through continuous efforts to elevate the role of civic participation, rebuild volunteer infrastructure, and celebrate volunteer stories. This National Volunteer Week, we are recognizing the people and organizations that fuel positive change. Whereas 73% of Canada contributes their time through formal and informal volunteer roles, giving approximately 4.1 billion volunteer hours annually, strengthening belonging, well-being, equity, and resilience. And whereas volunteers in the town of Drumheller ignite impact every day, mentoring youth, supporting isolated residents, welcoming newcomers, advancing equity and inclusion, caring for community spaces, responding to emergencies, and building strong neighborhoods. And whereas volunteers in the town of Drumheller continue to demonstrate generosity, compassion, creativity, and leadership, strengthening the social fabric and advancing efforts towards a more just, inclusive, and connective community. And whereas the volunteers of the town represent diverse ages, backgrounds, cultures, identities, and lived experiences, each bringing unique energy and perspective that ignites meaningful change. And whereas the town of Drumheller benefits greatly from the dedication of volunteers and those individuals who quietly volunteer their time and efforts to support the community without recognition. And whereas volunteer involving organizations in the town of Drumheller, including the Drumheller Healthcare Center, the Drumheller Health Center, Drumheller Fire Department, Drumheller Legion, Pioneer Trail Senior Center, the Salvation Army, Badlands Amphitheater, Drumheller Humane Society, the arts organizations, local festivals, museums, the many sports organizations, youth groups, various local events, and the town's individual community halls all rely on volunteers whose dedication and enthusiasm ignite essential programs, cultural events, and community supports. And whereas we encourage people in the town of Drumheller to explore ways of giving back, to find your thing, and to engage in creating a strong and resilient community through volunteer action. Now, therefore, I, Tony Miglis, Mayor of the town of Drumheller, do hereby proclaim April 19th to 25th, 2026 as National Volunteer Week. I encourage all residents to celebrate and thank the people whose dedication ignites meaningful change and strengthens our community. Okay,
I got me. There you
okay, yeah, we got any more announcements? Counselor Hardy?
Okay, volunteers play an important role in our community by giving their time, skills, and energy to support programs, events, and services that benefit all residents. Their contributions help build a strong, connected, and caring community. Now, as part of this recognition, a volunteer appreciation barbecue will be held on April 23rd from 4 to 7 p.m. at the BCF Terrace, indoors if the weather requires, providing an opportunity to thank and celebrate our volunteers. For more information, please contact Community Services at drumheller.ca. And I'd like to wish a very happy birthday to Town of Drumheller's very own Erica Crocker. Happy birthday, Erica.
All right. Right on. All right, anybody else got any announcements? Counselor Zarisky?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Speaking of volunteers, tomorrow is Earth Day. I don't know about you, but I was very impressed with the Artemis 2 pictures. That blue planet out in the distance, that looked kind of nice, you know, and we kind of live there. So just thank you very much to volunteers who pick up the garbage around the community, Badlands Trail Society who do wonderful things in the community, all sorts of things that people can do tomorrow. You can plant flowers, you can do composting, planting trees, gardens, purchasing locally sourced food. We even have rain barrels that you can purchase downstairs, I believe. So anything you can do to help that, what is it, the fifth blue planet from the sun? What's the song? Ange would know.
Isn't that third rock from the sun? All right, thanks for that. Anybody else got anything? Counselor McNeil?
Thank you. The Drumheller Valley Family and Community Support Services, FCSS, grant applications are open now until April 30th. Agencies, nonprofit organizations, and schools are invited to apply. Application forms are located on the Town of Drumheller website, and if you require more information, feel free to call FCSS, the department at 403 823 1367.
Okay, thank you for that. Good programs there. And Counselor Miller?
Thank you. I'd just like to let everyone know as well that the Tourism Industry Association of Canada recognizes this week as Tourism Week. Travel Drumheller and partners are hosting a number of mixer events around town this week. You can check out their webpage or social media and head out to one of them if you'd like to chat about tourism in the valley.
Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else find something? No, we're all good. Okay, with that said, do we have any other further additions to the agenda?
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration does have one item to add. Item 8.1 to close session, intergovernmental relations. As per ATIA 26, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations. Thank you.
Okay, so with that amendment, can I get someone to make a motion to adopt the agenda? Deputy Mayor Kalafa?
I'll move the council adopts the agenda for the April 21st, 2026 regular council meeting as amended.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Hanson? All in favor? Okay, all right, that carries. All right, so then we'll get our adoption of the minutes for April 7th, 2026. Can I get someone to make a motion to adopt those? Councillor McNeil?
I move that council approves the minutes for the April 7th, 2026 regular council meeting as presented.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Miller. Thank you. All in favor? Okay. All right, so that's them. And on to our, adopt the minutes for our April 14th Committee of the Whole. We're on item 4.2, sorry. Our Committee of the Whole for April 14th for our minutes. Can I get a motion on that one? Counselor Hanson?
I move that council approves the minutes of the April 14th, 2026 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Counselor Miller, all in favor? Okay, so that one's carried. All right, so now we'll be on to 4.3, the minutes for our special council meeting, which was also April 14th. Can I get someone to make a motion for that one? Counselor Hardy? Thank
I
you.
move that council approves the minutes for the April 14th, 2026 special council meeting as presented.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Deputy Mayor Kalafa, thank you. All in favor? Okay, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. All right, so now we're on to our council boards, our 5.1. So our regular meeting minutes from the Drumheller Public Library Board of March 11th, 2026. Can I get someone to make a motion on that? Councillor McNeil.
Thank you. I move that council accepts the Drumheller Public Library meeting minutes from the March 11th, 2026 regular meeting as information.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Hanson. Thank you. And all in favor? Okay, thank you. All right, so now we're on to our delegations. We got a delegation from the Badlands Trail Society.
Good afternoon, Council. Today I'm welcoming the delegation from the Badlands Trail Society, Ms. McDonald here. She's here to provide a presentation for Council regarding a proposed bike, a bit of the history of the Trail Society and just what they do in the community, as well as a potential proposal for a bike skills trail park. Thank you. Just a little bit of summary, the Badlands Trail Society is a nonprofit organization that works to build and maintain multi-use trails that promote year-round active mobility throughout the Drumheller Valley. The society representatives are present to provide council with a review of the 2025 activities and to seek support for the proposed pump track on town of Drumheller property. With that, I'll pass it over to Ms. McDonald here for a presentation.
Hello, folks. My name's Pam McDonald. I'm a Drumheller resident. I recognize a few faces. There's some new faces. Say hello if you see me around town. I'm the secretary for the Badlands Trail Society and have been since our inception. We... Oh. Okay. I'm just going to keep it really brief because if you want to learn about us, go to the website. The meat of the presentation is going to be our lovely SAIT capstone students that are going to be joining us once I do a quick little ramble. Basically, we're just a volunteer grassroots initiative. We have a small board and about 53 active members, about 150 people that participate throughout the year. Like Mike said, we are all about supporting infrastructure for active mobility and just accessing nature in the Drumheller Valley. So we do that with our cooperative action with the town of Drumheller and Alberta Parks. So we helped keep the McMullen Island parking lot open and the Midland Mine site open for the winter. And I don't know if anyone went out there, but those sites were heavily utilized this winter. So thank you for the town of Drumheller for supporting that. It's been, and for our main volunteer, Cheryl Taylor, who did all the bathroom and garbage maintenance. But that's, I feel like, a really big success, because prior to that, there were so many safety concerns with vehicles parking on the side. And so, yes, that was one of our favorite wins. We also did one season of the skating trail at Newcastle Beach and would like to pursue that in the future. We have so many bird enthusiasts in Drumheller that it is mind boggling, and they are out exploring different parts of this valley. So we're really promoting their engagement in the community building with regular birding events. And then summer, like spring, summer is kind of when we kick off with weekly meetups. And so we'll be launching those probably in June. And we've done a number of different just community capacity building events prior. The main focus of this delegation presentation is the feasibility study that our state hospitality and tourism students did. So this was a collaborative effort. The Travel Drumheller crew got us to apply for this project, and the state students selected this project as what they wanted to do for their final project for their hospitality and tourism course. And so we'll save that for the end. I'll just give you a little bit of our other stuff. It's very exciting what they came up with, though. We just put up 36 bluebird nesting boxes up at the Horseshoe Canyon. So the Nature Conservancy of Canada has an incredible property up there that's really underutilized, and it's prime nesting habitat for bluebirds. So we built and placed all those boxes and did a little educational workshop. We are also, you'll be probably seeing a development permit in the next couple weeks for a pathway extension west of Knackamine on the Alberta Transportation land. So we're trying to make a safer pathway adjacent to the highway. And we're in the application process with the Alberta Transportation right now, and we just finished our traffic accommodation strategy and are getting quotes from contractors, so you'll stay tuned for that. I'm sure you'll be looped in. We're working with Alberta Parks for some signage in Midland Provincial Park, just some interpretive signage, again, to promote connection to the wildlife that we have. We are also discussing with them getting signage for responsible collection, because this time of year you'll see people pulling prairie crocuses out of the Midland Provincial Park, and so we just realized that there's an opportunity for some education with signage, so we're working with them on that. And like I said, some summer meetups are about to start. Our long-term goals, we really are trying right now to build capacity and relationships with different agencies to work on a master trail plan at Midland Provincial Park. A lot of us are frequent heavy users of federal and provincial parks, and we know with the growth in tourism that if there isn't an action plan or a trail plan, then it's really hard to control where people go. So we have already begun that conversation. We recognize this is probably going to take 10 years, but we just wanted to bring up the concerns now before visitation, continues to grow. So that's our end game, is really just protecting our local provincial park resource. We want to encourage the development of single track trails on all public land. So that's, if you have a chunk of land where you're like, hey, maybe we could do a 2-kilometer loop here, we would love to hear about that. And really, a lot of what we're trying to do is build outdoor participation and a culture of engaging in the outdoors in Drumheller residents, because that gives you a sense of place and identity. And if you love where you live, you're going to protect it, is our kind of thing that's driving us. So we're still, and I had a feeling, Councillor Zreski, you would ask me about my AGLC casino license, and we still have not been approved. So that's pending. So that's just the brief of who we are in a nutshell and what we're up to behind the scenes. If nobody has any questions, I'll pass it over to our state capstone students. So it's Amy Fallows, Justine Perez, Megan Lai, and Trisha Mondito. And they are the bright minds that put together the feasibility study that is attached in the agenda.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us. We're just so excited for this opportunity, and we're really excited to show you what we've been working on. So I'm going to share my screen with you, and then we will get started. Alrighty, can everybody see that? I think so.
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
Perfect. All right, we will get started then.
All right, so welcome to our presentation. We are working with, of course, Pam and the Badlands Trail Society, and we've created this semester a bike park feasibility study, for you guys. So moving on, just a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today is, so first, a little introduction of who we are, then the project, what we're doing, destination, challenge, the methodology, how we figured it out, the relevant literature, so what research we've been looking at, the survey and the survey results, and all the project considerations that we have for the feasibility.
So my name is Trisha. This is Amy, Justine, and Megan, and we are a team of, as Pam mentioned, we are a team of students from State's Bachelor of Hospitality and Tourism Management program, currently completing our capstone project. And this project is designed to apply everything we've learned to a real-world industry challenge. Hospitality and Tourism Capstone course is the final project in our program where we work with a real industry partner to solve a real-world problem and provide practical recommendations.
All right, so what is a bike skills park? So a bike skills park is a designated area designed for riders of all abilities to learn and practice their technical skills. So these parks typically are free to access and include a variety of dirt and wooden obstacles, such as berms, jumps that simulate trail conditions. Bike parks are also accessible by all ages and skill levels and provide the community with high quality outdoor recreation opportunities, which is in line with the Badlands Trail Society.
So this project focuses on evaluating the feasibility of developing a bike skills park on land in Drumheller. So currently there has been no formal research conducted on this opportunity, which is why our project is really important, and we are helping assess whether this idea is viable. So specifically, our project looked at 3 key areas, including market demand, technical requirements, and funding considerations. And because this is a new initiative, with limited prior data, there is some level of uncertainty and risk involved, just like with any other project. And then our goal is ultimately to help reduce that risk by providing data-driven insights to support informed decision-making.
So for our project methodology, it outlines the key steps we followed to complete our feasibility study. Project initiation scope is the first one. This phase focused on defining our project objectives, scope, and deliverables in collaboration with our industry partner, the Badlands Trail Society. We established roles, responsibilities, and timelines to ensure the project stayed organized and aligned. The second one would be the secondary research and benchmarking. In this phase, we conducted a review of academic literature, government reports, and existing case studies, including similar bike park projects. Third one would be the primary research and community engagement. We collected primary data through an online survey distributed over 4 weeks, which received 80 responses, and this allowed us to understand community interest, biking habits, and preferred features. Fourth one would be the feasibility analysis. Using both our primary and secondary research, we evaluated the project's feasibility by analyzing market demand, financial considerations, and technical requirements. And the last one would be the recommendations and the deliverables. Based on our findings, we developed key recommendation and final deliverables, including actionable insights for implementation and future planning.
And then for our survey methodology, so we used an online survey to assess community interest and demand for the proposed bike skills park. So the survey was open from February 24th till March 24th, and we received a total of 80 responses, as mentioned, and it was distributed through multiple channels, including word of mouth, email, social media, and through the Badlands Trail Society. Based on Drumheller's population, an ideal sample size should have been approximately 368 responses to achieve a 95% confidence level with a 5% margin of error. And in terms of limitation, our sample size is below the recommended amount, and the response rate is unknown since we don't actually know how many people saw the survey. And then the results should be viewed as directional insights to support early stage planning for this project. And then for our literature review, so the findings from our literature review suggest that developing a bike skills park in Drumheller would be a beneficial project for the town. Research shows that when properly designed, a bike skills park can promote community recreation, environmental sustainability, support the local economy, and obviously boost tourism. So additionally, similar studies, such as the bike skills park feasibility study from Fort Saskatchewan, highlight the importance of assessing market demand, site suitability, and funding considerations before development. And so these findings help support that this project is both practical and evidence-based and has very, very strong potential for the town of Drumheller.
So as part of our research, we also reviewed existing bike parks within Southern Alberta just to understand their land usage, amenities, and general bike skills layouts. So the following 3 bike parks, the Chestermere Family Bike Park, the Benchlands Bike Trail in Canmore, and the Fish Creek Mountain Bike Skills Park in Calgary were selected due to their approximate size, features, and amenities being of similar nature to the proposed Drumheller Park. So these parks range in size from 3.5 acres to 1 acre, and each park contains similar features, such as the wooden features and flow dirt trails, paired with the essential amenities such as parking lots and washrooms.
Yeah, just a look into our surveys. We sent out that survey that Jesseline was mentioning, and looking into the target demographic that we found in our survey. So majority are, of course, Drumheller residents. And our most popular result for age was around 35 to 54. So people who participate in like biking or mountain biking and any recreation activity like that. And of course, you can see that the second group is the 5 to 12 years old. So this just shows that all demographics will be using this, all ages, and that it's just going to include all the youth and recreational riders as well. And so on to market demand. So from the survey, we learned that there is already a strong market demand for a bike skills park in the community. So many respondents already do participate in regular biking activities, whether that's weekly or monthly, which indicates that biking is already part of their routine rather than just an occasional activity. And this suggests that there is an existing user base that would immediately benefit from a dedicated facility such as a bike skills park. In addition, 96% of respondents support the development of a bike skills park and believe it would enhance recreational opportunities and add a lot of social value towards the community. And then for technical needs, so the survey results help identify key technical features and amenities that should be prioritized in the design of the bike skills park. So in terms of amenities, a shaded seating area and a portable washroom were identified as the most important features. And this is just showing that basic comfort and accessibility are key for users. And then for actual park features, so flow trails and skill progression areas were of top priority to respondents. So this suggests that users are looking for a riding experience that is both enjoyable, but also suitable for them to develop their skills. And then wooden features and bike repair stations were ranked as lower priority, meaning that this may not be necessary to implement during the first phases of development.
So for our project considerations, we considered environmental sustainability, location, park features, phased approach, associated risk, community impact, and budget and funding resources. Environmental sustainability is one of the key considerations for this project, especially given the sensitive landscape of the Drumheller Valley. Research shows that poorly designed bike trails can lead to issues like soil erosion, vegetation loss, and ecosystem disruption. So it's important that the park is developed responsibly. To address this, we recommend sustainable trail design, such as following natural land contours and avoiding ecological sensitive areas, along with promoting responsible riding through user education. Community feedback also supported this approach, with participants emphasizing the importance of respecting land boundaries and using sustainable low-impact materials.
So for the suggested location, the findings from the market demand survey indicate a very strong demand for the park to be accessible by both bike and car. This would mean that the area must also be easily accessed by emergency vehicles and first responders in the event of an emergency. The location should also be within town limits and easily accessed using the town's existing trail system. In addition, we should also consider the proper soil content and drainage in order to maximize the responsibility of the park, as well as access to water to simplify the upkeep of dirt features. So here's an AI mockup of the potential park, utilizing aerial images of the proposed location within the Drumheller neighborhood of Midland. So this location is considered ideal as it's well connected within the town and has foundations to support the project well. For park features, based on the community consultation, these features are suggested to be incorporated into the final park design. So first, the park should feature gradual progression of difficulty. So this would include features that share similar design, but increase in difficulty or height. To communicate this, the park should utilize the standard trail grading system, similar to a ski hill, with green being easy, blue square being more difficult, and black diamond being very difficult. And additionally, there was significant demand for a toddler focus loop area. So it's recommended that the initial phase of the project include a little rider's loop, open exclusively to children 5 years and younger. For the remainder of the park design, utilizing a mixture of both wood and dirt features is highly recommended. This would include a mix of dirt jumps and trails, berms, wooden ladders, and wall rides, which can be easily modified as the project develops.
Yeah, quickly looking into the implementation phase. So this is looking at the construction phase of things. We've basically split it into 3 phases. As you can see in the lower left corner there, what's completed right now is the feasibility study, the market survey, and the research that we have completed. And then moving into phase 1, which is the initial development. So this is going to be looking into the core features, like the toddler's loop, everything that's necessary for the development of the park to begin with. That's going to be the beginner and intermediate trails, and then the essential amenities that we discovered in the survey results. Next phase is going to be phase 2. So phase 2 is going to be looking into more of the advanced features, like the constructed wooden features, and then any additional amenities which are not quite the most important thing, but it's definitely important to add. And then this is going to be with the increased capacity. We're expecting that people are going to be using it a lot more, so just expanding with that. And then, of course, lastly, phase 3, which is going to be the future growth. You always want to plan for the future. So, of course, based on survey feedback from people using the park, potential park expansions, new features, and just ongoing improvements and maintenance to the trails and to the park overall.
So for our risk matrix, it highlights the key risks associated with the bike skills park based on their probability and impact. The most critical risk identified is user injuries, which is categorized as high due to both its likelihood and serious impact on safety. Several other risks, such as maintenance issues, trail hazards, and liability concerns, as they are likely to occur but can be managed with proper planning. And financial limitations and vandalism and crime also affect the long-term sustainability of the park. This analysis shows that while there are risks, most can be effectively managed through proactive planning and design.
Yeah, next, looking into community impact, we really focus on 3 main areas: the social, economic, and growth and development of Drumheller. Starting with the social impact, the bike skills part really creates an inclusive space for all ages and all skill levels. It really encourages people to stay active and build confidence and connect with others, especially the youth. With the right design, like clear signage and separate areas for adult and youth, it can stay safe and welcoming for everyone in the community. Next, moving on to the economic impact, the park can help really boost local tourism and spending. It gives people another reason to visit Drumheller, which supports, of course, the nearby businesses like restaurants, shops, and Airbnbs or bed and breakfasts as well. And then finally, in terms of growth and development, the park really supports the community long term. It improves quality of life, encourages outdoor activity, and helps position Drumheller as more of an active and attractive destination.
So for the revenue and funding, as seen on the screen here, there are several different resources available to help fund the project. Each program has different application requirements and deadlines, which have been provided to Pam in our report. However, many of the grant applications require the applicant to be a qualified donee or partner with one. So a recommendation to consider would be to partner with a registered charity within the Drumheller area, focusing on that youth recreation aspect. As this project would be volunteer run, ongoing maintenance would rely on consistent volunteer commitment and ongoing contributions. And as the park does not charge usage fees, additional revenue would need to be considered for the long-term viability. So possible revenue sources include fundraisers, community workshops such as bike maintenance or first aid courses, allocating a percentage of membership fees to support park maintenance, local business and municipal sponsors, and donations.
So based on our research findings, we developed a set of recommended next steps to guide the development of the Bike Skills Park. These steps are intended to support planning and decision-making for the Badlands Trail Society. The first step is to confirm the site and conduct a detailed site analysis. This includes evaluating accessibility, connections to existing trails, terrain, and drainage conditions, as well as environmental sensitivity and site constraints. In addition, soil testing or analysis is important to assess durability as it impacts the park's long-term sustainability. Overall, this step is critical to ensure the site can safely and effectively support the proposed park design.
Then the next step is going to be to review all legal and regulatory considerations related to the project. So this is going to include confirming land use regulations, environmental requirements, and any construction standards that must be followed. Taking this step early is going to help ensure the project is compliant with all regulations and reduces potential risks or delays during the design and construction phases.
So the next step is to develop a concept plan for the Bike Skills Park. This involves creating a preliminary design that includes features like flow trails, skill progression areas, and park amenities, all designed to fit the natural terrain of Drumheller. Also identifying the resources needed, such as materials, labor, equipment, and ongoing maintenance to support planning and budgeting. In addition, it's important to consider how the project will be communicated to the community and how feedback will be collected to ensure the design reflects local needs. Overall, the concept plans help establish a clear direction for development and support informed decision-making moving forward.
And lastly, just to look at the budget development. So at this point, it's pretty hard to say the exact budget. So we kind of went into to seeing what is worth putting, like just considering under the budget. So of course, we split it into hard costs and soft costs. And I'm pretty sure everyone knows what that is, but a hard cost is basically the construction, everything you can see. It'll be the development of it. And then of course, the soft cost is going to be like surveys, legal fees, and any insurance or any administration side of things. So it's just super important when developing the Bike Skills Park, just to consider all of these categories in the budget development. And to conclude, do we think this project is feasible? Yes, we do. So the development of the Bike Skills Park is definitely something that is viable with careful planning and consideration. There are also multiple community benefits that come along with this project, and we would really love to see this happen. Thank you guys so much.
Does anyone have any questions about the project?
Okay, do we? Okay, well, let's first move for a motion here. Someone want to make a motion on our, that was page 27, I think it was. 23. Back on page 23. Okay, all right, Deputy Mayor Kalafa.
I'll move the council accepts the presentation from the Badlands Trail Society as information and directs administration to bring further information to a future council meeting.
There we go, thank you. And can I get a seconder? Councilor Hardy? All right, thank you. Okay, so now we have our questions. Councilor Zeritsky.
So great presentation. I would give you an A+ if I was your professor. Yeah, very well done, very comprehensive. Couple of questions. We have a skateboard park in Drumheller that was kind of a very similar scenario to this in terms of development project. I was wondering, did you look into that at all in terms of how that came about and how it was funded and any of that?
We did not look into that one, but we did use it as a similar project, and we did weigh the differences between it. So comparing it to what our bike park would kind of fill the holes essentially. So this one would be very dirt focused, which a lot of bikes typically don't use a skate park. So it fills that kind of gap for those riders in terms of community need.
Yeah, I guess I was, and maybe you could mention, have you talked to some of the people who kind of developed the skateboard park? I can't remember, it was Brooke and Nick Soretta and those people. Have you talked to them at all in terms of how they kind of got that going? And
No, but that's a great idea.
Yes.
one last comment, Your Worship.
Okay.
Speaking of the skateboard park, I think one thing that could be put into the formula here as well, last year or whenever, I was driving by the skateboard park on my bike and stopped and talked to one of the parents who was watching their kids use the skateboard park. And they said they were from Red Deer and they purposely came to Drumheller to use the skateboard park because it was in the, I quote, rotation, that it was known to be a very good skateboard park and very popular. And so I could envision maybe something like that for this bike skills park as well. You know, if it's good, if it gets a name out there, you know, then it could conceivably even be a tourist attraction.
When I first met this group of students, one of them said, "Oh, I just went on a bike park tour. I just hit 6 bike parks." So it's a phenomenon that happens. It's really common. There's an entire website devoted to families looking for bike parks in British Columbia and Alberta. It's a it's a form of tourism.
That's good information. That's never even thought of something like that. It's pretty cool. Deputy Mayor Cloughlin.
Thank you. In some of the very, very early discussions of a project like this, we were always talking about using part of the area that would be adapted fill for the berm and something that may have to be knocked down right away. But obviously, we've gone way beyond this with this project that we're looking at, hey? Or
So our discussion right now is if you want to give us a pile of dirt, we will put it into mounds and we will ride on it. If you want to have us develop a beautiful bike park with permanent infrastructure, we will write the grants and go that direction. We're mostly just willing to ride our bikes on dirt somewhere in Drumheller. So I would say that's where we're coming from. This is the ideal scenario, and but it comes with all of the downsides of making such great infrastructure. So yes, great question.
awesome. No, the presentation, yeah, absolutely demonstrated the potential for this and the need. And I guess my other thought is the Badlands Trail Society is kind of a dream organization for a community and for a municipality to see people that take something that they want to see to improve the community. The thought that you said, you know, love and connection, and you'll protect it, and go out and do it. And no, I applaud you for putting this together, and thank you.
Yeah, it is a great deal for sure. The amount of planning that these people put the work into is pretty up there. Anybody else got any questions for them? Councillor McNeil?
Yes, thank you for the presentation. Excellent work. And my one question is, can you explain for me then what the regular maintenance entails with say, a dirt park?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of the things that we looked into was the seasonal maintenance. So as you know, we get a lot of snow and rain. So just going in and reshaping that dirt to make sure it stays optimal. And then also just the garbage cleanup, making sure that it stays clean and accessible for everyone. And then just also making sure that the wooden features in the park stay safe and maintainable. So just keeping ongoing maintenance throughout there to make sure it stays operational.
Great, thank you.
I'll just add also there's some like weed control and erosion management, and you often need to compact. And I'm anticipating that would be part of our maintenance. Would be just making sure that we are compacting the dirt each season.
Right on. Any further questions? No? Oh, Councillor Hanson?
It's a very good presentation. Thank you very much. Just as another piece of property to look at or people to talk to, I think would be the Drumheller Stampede and Agricultural Society. They have a big facility up there where a lot of the land isn't being used, and I think this would fit in really well up there. There's access to water and everything on that facility up there, and it could be a permanent facility and that wouldn't have to be torn down in case there was a flood or something like that. It'd be a shame to lose something that's put in so many hours to create, just to have it tore down again. But I think it'd be, you should look into that one, talk to them up there and see if there's an interest.
We also had the Egg Society as a potential location. However, it's the dependency on a vehicle to get there that makes it a limitation for the locals who don't have access to vehicles. And that was part of the survey findings as well. It wasn't just a bunch of us being like, well, I want to ride my bike there. A lot of it was they wanted bike access, and we do have a great idea for a single track trail development up there that we have proposed. So we absolutely see the amazing resource that the Egg Society has with their lease land, and we have a different project in mind. But yeah, you're not wrong. It has so much going on up there.
Phase 4. Any further questions? I got a few questions here for him. You guys, that was a great presentation. You can tell your parents that they didn't throw their money away putting you through school. You've done a great job there. I gotta say that. Uh, I had a few questions here. So, did any of you participate in planning or building any of the examples that you were pointing to there? You know, you said there were other areas. Were any of you part of that?
No, none of us were. We just utilized the information that they had available and then analyzed that from there.
Excellent. See, that even makes it even better for you guys right there. Okay, and so have any of you rode in those other areas?
Yeah, I have been to all three. As Pam mentioned, I'm the one that went on the bike tour. So I've been to all three parks, and I think they all have their own unique offerings. And I think taking aspects from all of them would be really beneficial.
And have you considered that here with Drumheller with our, different topography and, the different dirt and the hotter climate? Have you thought of those things for when you're planning on this?
Yeah, not until this project, but kind of doing some research into it, I realized there's a really big environment aspect that a lot of people really enjoy is riding on that type of dirt that you guys do have out there. So there are lots of Facebook groups and things like that that do mention Drumheller as being an excellent bike location, specifically for those aspects and that dirt and things like that.
All right. And then, yeah, that was another thing. What made you think that Drumheller would be a good place to do this?
I think it's because it's pretty like a niche place. You know, you don't really see a lot of places like Drumheller in Alberta. I know I went when I was younger, and I didn't really appreciate it as much as I did when we passed. Like we recently just went. There's so much to the town. There's so much history. Even when we were trying to we were doing research on the land acknowledgement, just hearing the stories about like the sacredity of like how like the stories between the indigenous sides of the land and the fossils. I think it's just such a niche area, and like it's just like even like making people learn about the town more. It's just I think it's just really cool, and like just yeah, everything about it's really cool in my personal opinion.
Hey, no, that's great. And all right. Da-da-da-da. No, that's good. Yeah, no, you guys have done great. You've got great answers, and including some of those things in there. I mean, we could look at that further on with this project, but I mean, I think you guys have done a great job, and I mean, if we were, you know, looking at it as an investment, you guys would definitely be the lead crew. All right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so
That's
much.
cool.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you for this opportunity. We were really excited to present to you.
An honor, honestly.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Have a good day.
Okay. Yeah. You too. Thanks a lot for that. All right. All in favor? All in favor? Okay, that vote carries. All right, so that was an excellent little thing there. Now we're on to our Office of the CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship. So our first item today for our department is our council committee bylaw number 34.25 for second reading. So administration is presenting this to council following first reading here on April 7th. There was some additional comments or recommendations from council that we've incorporated into this second reading version. Specifically, the proposed changes were that the terms of reference for the Drumheller Standing Committee on Health be drafted and included as part of the committee bylaw, and that we request that from the Drumheller Standing Committee on Health if they were amenable to this change, and that the member of council be added to the Downtown Streetscape Improvement Task Force to be added as a non-voting member, and that all boards and committees that have a financial request to council should be required to provide an annual financial report. So considering those recommendations, administration has made the following changes. So we did follow up with the Standing Committee on Health, and they have expressed a desire to remain independent from the town. However, they are very happy to have a member of council become an official representative on their board. So as a result, administration isn't going to be drafting a new terms of reference to make this an actual town committee. It will remain as an external committee. So we are just going to coordinate with the committee to update their bylaws and terms of reference and to shoot it over to us once it's ready, and we can have a member of council be appointed, and we'll incorporate that into our committees and bylaw, our committees and boards appointments at our organizational meetings every year. The second was regarding the downtown task force. And so we have amended the terms of reference there to add in a member of council as a non-voting member. We've also added in section 9.4B, which states that all boards and committees that are listed in 6.2 of the bylaw shall be required to submit an annual financial report prior to September 30th of each year if they receive funding or if they're requesting funding from the town of Drumheller in the next year. So the reasoning for the September 30th deadline is so we can incorporate that as part of our annual budget deliberations. We've also added in section 27, which states that all records of council committees shall be retained in accordance with the town's record retention and disposition bylaw. In addition to these recommendations, we have had further discussions with our Emergency and Protective Services Department with regards to the Municipal Policing Committee terms of reference. So there is going to be a couple of additional changes made to that, just so that we're better aligned with some recent direction we've received from the Alberta Ministry of Public Safety and Emergency Services, who are the ones that have asked for the creation of these committees. There is no financial implications to these changes that we're proposing today in the new bylaw. Our strategic policy alignment is this is in line with our pillar number 1. Drumheller ensures municipal services are sustainable, predictable, transparent, and supported by a resilient organization and long-term financial planning. And our public participation strategy on this is once the new bylaw and the framework are passed, we will communicate it to the public on our website. As well, we will directly contact the stakeholders and the committee chairs to ensure that they are fully aware of these changes that we're proposing. So administration is recommending that council give second reading today to bylaw 34.25 as presented. Thank you.
Okay. Can I get someone make a motion here? Councillor McNeil?
I move that council give second reading to Council Committee Bylaw number 34.25 as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councilor Zarisky. All right, any questions on this? Any input? Councilor Miller?
Thank you. So last time we talked about this, Councillor Zarisky did make mention of the enhanced security check feeling a bit heavy-handed, and now I see there's been even more added to that. So my understanding of this board is members aren't accessing federal protected information or classified information or assets or work sites or working with vulnerable members of society. And all council committee meetings are open to the public. So I'm just wondering the reason for a criminal record check, a law enforcement inquiry, or police indices inquiry, enhanced security check carried out by the Provincial Security Intelligence Office and open and source inquiry and a security interview. Why that would all be added onto here, because my understanding is that this is a council advisory board. If the reason is just to kind of keep people out who might not be fans of the RCMP, this could really be said about any of the council committees. You know, somebody who thinks council's overpaid could get onto the remuneration task force and advocate for a 30% decrease in our honorarium for the next council. There's always the chance that someone who doesn't like a certain group or agenda might try to join it to make a change from the inside. And that just goes to everything. So one thing I'm wondering is what the cost would be to run all of these security checks on potential police advisory committee members. And my 2 cents is that I don't think we should have them.
Through the chair, I am going to ask our Director of Emergency and Protective Services, Mr. Greg Peters, to provide a little bit more clarity on the direction from the provincial government. Thank you.
Yes, that's exactly it. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. We're trying to work within provincial guidelines put forward to us for the function and operation of these committees. The cost will be negligible, and most of it will be worked out by way of phone calls and working with the staff sergeant and his access to information. I don't anticipate it being any kind of overbearing or odious process. It's just the processes that are available, if need be, in selection of members. As I said, these are guidelines put out by the province, and we've done our best. I appreciate the tremendous amount of work Angela Keibel and Mitch Visser have put into this, and we're trying to keep in keeping best as we are with the provincial guidelines put forward.
Councilor Miller?
Did the province put forward like a policing advisory committee bylaw or recommendation that I or anyone else on council who's interested in looking at might have access to?
The province had ideas and concepts for a bylaw, and I'd have to go back some examples. I'm not sure what example. I'd have to look back at all the work that's gone into it to get us this far. Yeah, I can't. The best answer is I would have to check and see what's back in the records that I've got, and talk to the province to see what it is going back quite a ways, so I can't. That's a straight answer I can give right now. Thank you.
Councilor Zarisky?
Yeah, it's an interesting world we live in. You know, I asked the question about background check for somebody on the policing committee, but the reality is more and more and more volunteer nonprofit organizations are requiring background checks on anybody who is volunteering for anything. I've just gone through a number of them actually for Canada's Special Olympics. I had to do one for that. Golf Canada had to do one for that. Alberta Golf had to do one for that. It just seems that for every organization, if you're going to volunteer, you are going to have to go through these kinds of checks. And it's just for the protection of the organization and protection of the people that are, subject to that organization. That being said, I mean, it's strange. The recent Bill 58 of the provincial government just mandated that housing management bodies can now not require a criminal record check on possible future residents. You used to be able to actually require that if you had any suspicions that somebody was not particularly good, you could actually ask for a criminal record check. And now the Bill 58 says you cannot do that. So it's kind of a strange world we live in.
Deputy Mayor Kalafa?
Just through the chair, just to clarify, these thoughts on the criminal record check, is that per guidelines or requirements from the province?
Guidelines / requirements. It's what guidelines put forward, but if things start to get watered down, I hesitate to. I would want to compete with the wisdom of the provincial minister's office.
I guess my thought, if that, part could, within our policy, do it as per the requirements of, that way if those requirements ever do change as their process goes forward, it would be a little easier to, work within it without having to change our policies.
All right, I'm not sure about that stuff, but I know that, even for the fire department, you need to have you got a criminal record check there for that as well, so. Councillor Miller?
Yeah, there's also the need to know principle, which is while personnel screening levels potentially provide access to levels of sensitive information, personnel are not entitled to access merely because of status rank, office level of clearance. It restricts access to sensitive information and assets to those whose duties require such access. That is, to those who need to know the information. So just that's why this seemed a little overbearing to me, because I did do the deep dive, and like I'm coaching kids soccer, so of course I had to get a few checks done just this past week. But as far as the rest of our council advisory committees go, we're not asking for that on any of them. So a little bit of clarification there would really be very much appreciated. Thank you.
Through the chair, we will definitely bring back a little bit more breakdown on the direction that we have received from the province at this point, and just even if it's just the backup of to say, okay, is it how strong of a direction was it that municipalities must do this? Our issue here isn't necessarily that it's our because it's not something that we're choosing to do as a municipality. It's something that the province is telling us that we must do. Our hands are a little bit more tied on this one than it is than our usual, like we had a previous policing advisory committee, but it was our committee, so it was a bit different. This one, because the province has changed, which some municipalities have chosen to ignore on purpose, their processing and how they're going about instituting this across Alberta is something that we have to follow from a legal perspective. But when you follow it or how you choose to implement it, there's a little bit of leeway there. But again, we don't, we're not going to go against what the province wants, but how strong of a direction was it? So we can look into that.
I'm just looking at it too, with all the red is all, that they got on here are all the changes that are there, and those reds must be new requirements that are put in there, right?
Through the chair, that is correct. So we had originally, back when this bylaw was created, the Municipal Policing Advisory Committee bylaw, it was very, we were right on it as soon as the requirement came up. So since that time, they've provided more direction. So that's why we've incorporated the new direction that we received into this terms of reference, since we're revising the whole bylaw system and how we operate.
Okay, any other questions or anything else to add? Not seeing any, so we'll take our votes. All carried. Our motion carried. Okay, all right. All right. Do we got more? Mrs. Kiamba?
So item 7.1.2, our council procedure amending bylaw number 12.26. So administration is proposing 3 amendments to our council procedure bylaw for clarity and the associated administrative processes, and to just for streamlining purposes. So back in October of 25, council did pass our procedure bylaw to align with the new council term. The bylaw represented a significant change to the previous procedure bylaw, number 04.21, to better align with legislative requirements and incorporate municipal best practices. 3 changes are being proposed today to the bylaw. These include removal of the motion requirement prior to a matter being debated on. I'll speak to that just briefly. So the reasoning for this is, as we found, it's a little bit cumbersome to have to make a motion right off the top before the debate and the discussion is had with council. This is a best practice that's established in Robert's Rules of Order, but it's not a mandatory step. So administration is proposing that we remove the mandatory nature of this step. If council so chooses to make a motion right after a presentation is verbally provided, by all means, we can still do that, but it's not going to be a mandatory thing anymore. We would be able to choose to debate first and have a discussion, and then make a motion at the end of the discussion. So that's number 1. Number 2 is the correction of a clerical error that impacted which withdrawn motions be recorded in the minutes. So it's more administrative. The third is the removal of a requirement for financial request correspondence going to council that can be applied for through the established municipal grant programs, such as our Community Assistance Grant or our FCSS support grant. So currently, right now, the way the procedure bylaw is worded is anytime anybody submits a request that has to do with money, even if it's a small amount that could be processed through those grant programs, it still has to come to council as an item. So we're recommending that we remove that requirement. When it fits the requirements of our grant programs, administration will instead direct those requests to go through the policy, because that's going to be our recommendation all the time anyway, because that's why we have policy. Go through the policy first. If it's a request that falls outside of policy, that comes to council. So that's what that one is. And then the fourth one is the addition of a notwithstanding clause to allow for presentation materials to be displayed electronically in a closed session for viewing purposes only. So currently our closed session limitations include not using any sort of presentations or electronics. So we feel that has been needed on a number of occasions instead of hard copies. So we are recommending we take that clause out to allow for presentations on electronically. It does not mean people can attend electronically for closed sessions. It just means that we can present information within the room electronically for those discussions. So with the minor nature of these amendments, administration is recommending that council give all 3 readings today to the proposed council procedure amending bylaw. And once it does receive all 3 readings, the changes would be implemented immediately. There is no financial implications to these amendments. Our strategic policy alignment is in line with our pillar number 1 of providing sustainable services that are predictable and transparent. And our public participation strategy on this is we will update our procedure bylaw link on our website and inform the public of this change in our process. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Can I get a motion? Councilor Zarisky?
Yeah, I move the council gives first reading to council procedure amending bylaw number 12.26 as presented.
I seconder. Councilor Hardy? And any questions? Councilor Zaritsky?
Yeah, just kind of a reminder to council that we do a lot of different bylaws and we change a lot of different bylaws. So this one is pretty comprehensive, lots of great stuff in it. But we may find something that isn't working quite right in the future, and then we might amend it again. So just keep that in mind. That this looks really good. There's so much stuff in there, but we may run across something that isn't quite working quite the way we expect or want or need, and we can then amend it again. So it's not written in stone.
All right, thanks for that. That's a good point. Anyone else got anything in here? I know as far as that goes, it would be, for an example, like what we did on our last meeting where you made the motion, we had our discussion, and then we decided to change the motion. This is one of the things that it'll save us from doing that. Really, it's just so I'll get used to making a motion at the end, but not really. No, I think it seems like a practical thing. Then you can pick the right, because we usually have our, possible motions that are listed here and that, and we pick a motion and then you go ahead and you have your discussion and then it changes your mind while you were talking about it, right? So this is another attempt at doing that. Um, and then, yeah, as far as that electronics goes, well, that's another one that's, to be able to get presented without having to bring somebody in. All right. So anybody else? Any further input? No, nothing there. Okay, we want to take a vote on it, and we'll all in favor. Okay, carried. All right. So now, Councillor Kalafa.
I'll move that council gives second reading to council procedure procedure amending bylaw 12.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Miller. All right. Any discussion again? No, I don't see any. Okay, so then we'll take a vote on it. All in favor? All right. It looks like that's carried. All right. Anybody want to take a shot at the last one? Councillor McNeil.
I move that council gives unanimous consent for third and final reading of the council procedure amending bylaw number 12.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. A seconder. Councillor Hanson. All right. So that's that. Oh, we got a, all right, sorry. Getting ahead of myself here. And no further questions, nothing there. Okay, all in favor? Okay, all in favor, carried. All right, so now our third and final. Oh, I think we did three here.
Nope.
All right. A unanimous consent now. Okay. I got it down 3 times already. How many times? Okay. One more? Okay, Councillor.
I move that council gives third and final reading to the council procedure amending bylaw number 12.26 as presented.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Miller. All in favor? Okay. Is that it? We got any more? Nobody wants to put it, nobody wants to add another one? Okay, all right, that's good. Okay. Now what? Another one? Okay.
Next
Mrs.
item
Campbell.
is 7.1.3, Nakmine East Land Designation Bylaw number 10.26 for our second and third reading. So council did give first reading to this proposed Nakmine East Land Designation Bylaw on April 7th earlier this year, and requested, there was some clarity requested from administration prior to second reading, which has been provided in Schedule A. Now that the requested information has been provided, administration is recommending that council proceed to second and third reading of the proposed bylaw. So back on January 20th, 2026, council gave third and final reading to the Nakmine East Removal of Land Designation Bylaw number 40.25, and that essentially removed the status of municipal reserve on a parcel described as Block R1, Plan 7510071, so that it could be converted into a public utility lot by a future bylaw of council. So now that that had passed, we brought forward this designation bylaw to create 3 PULs, or public utility lots, covering that section of land near the Nakmine berm. So just taking a look at the reasons for why we have 3 instead of 1 large parcel. Schedule A shows that, this is done to denote the differences in use or allow for the differences of use in the future. So by providing different legal descriptions, it is easier for us to inventory different portions of the berm. For example, the sanitary lift station, which is on Lot 6 PUL, has a different use than Lot 4 and 5, which contains sections of the berm. So below are the specific reasons why each parcel is slightly different and the reasons why they are separated. AKA, one has a sanitary lift station and the other 2 contain portions of the berm, but one is the actual berm itself and one is a berm with a drainage ditch. There were, none of the parcels had previously been designated as ER. Lot 4 PUL was an MR until we removed it with the bylaw that I had just talked about. Lot 5 and Lot 6 PUL is a single parcel that was also previously owned by the town, so it wasn't designated as ER per se. I believe the other question was asked was, were any of the parcels being designated as, were they expropriated lands? And no, these, both of the lots were owned previously by the town, and previous to the town, the MD of Badlands before that. So with that, administration is recommending that council give second and third reading today. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And so can I get someone to make a motion here? Councillor Hanson.
There you go. I move that council give second reading to Nakmine East Land. Nope. Can you see? Land Designation Bylaw number 10-26 as presented.
All right, thanks for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Zarisky. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor? Okay, motion carried. All right, can I get another motion on that? Deputy Mayor Kalafa.
I move that council gives third and final reading to Nakmine East Land Designation Bylaw 10.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder on that? Councillor Miller, thank you. And any discussion on that? None? None seen. Okay, all in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you, Worship. Next item is Celebration of Excellence Gala sponsorship. So the Drumheller District Chamber of Commerce and the Drumheller Rotary Club and Travel Drumheller are collaborating on holding the annual Celebration of Excellence Gala on June 11th, 2026. This is hosted at the Badlands Community Facility, and the event honors individuals and businesses for their achievements and contributions to the community. Administration is requesting that council provide direction on whether they would like to purchase individual tickets, a table, or purchase one of the various sponsorship packages at this time. So, council in the past does usually purchase a table for the event at a cost of past cost of $360. This includes seating for 8 members, with usually the 7 council members attending in the CAO. Council may also decide to purchase individual tickets at $45 each, or purchase one of the sponsorship packages. The sponsorship packages and additional information are available in the attached Appendix A. The financial implications, so if council wants to go down the road of a sponsorship option, that cost will be put against the existing 2026 operating budget through the Community Assistance Grant Program. And if council wishes to proceed with the tickets only option, then the purchase of the tickets or a table will be funded within our 26 operating budget as a council meeting expense. This event is in line with our pillar number 2, which is developing a healthy and thriving community. Drumheller will deliver infrastructure, services, and partnerships that support health, safety, mobility, recreation, and overall quality of life for our residents. So today, administration's recommendation is that council directs administration to purchase a table for the 26th Celebration of Excellence Gala in the amount of $360 plus GST, to be funded from the 2026 operating budget. However, I do want to point out on this one the alternate directions, because it's truly up to council if you wish to sponsor. I have had preliminary discussions with the Chamber Executive Director, and they would be willing to also apply for a sponsorship request through the Community Assistance Grant. So if we prefer to sponsor the event, that is, I would recommend alternative direction number 1. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And can I get a motion? Or, well, I guess we could go with our new, start right away, eh? Okay, all right, well then, let's talk about it. Councilor Zarisky.
Yeah, I've attended the Celebration of Excellence many times, and it is a wonderful event. It is the opportunity for the town, the people in the town, the chamber, the Rotary, etc., to celebrate businesses in this community that are really working hard and doing a great job in making this a great community, and it celebrates people in this community who are working really hard to make this basically a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to visit. I think the town definitely needs to support this in some way, shape, or form. And I would suggest that the community assistance grant is a good thing. However, my understanding is that there's not much money left in it already. And to ask the chamber to have to go through that, to me would be not the best idea. I think we should support this as a town, as a council. Anyways, it's a great thing to support.
Any other discussion? Councilor McNeil?
Thank you. I certainly concur with Councillor Zarisky. And just, I would like to add that also know that a number of nonprofit organizations, other organizations aside from our businesses, are in that room as well. They're nominated for the different awards. And it is, I think, a wonderful Drumheller tradition that really does celebrate the excellence in our community. And I think it's just fantastic that both the Rotary and as well Travel Drumheller are a part of this. So I definitely think we need to support it.
Okay, thanks for that. Anyone else? No? Oh, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
I'll move the council direct administration to purchase, oh, the page just flipped, yeah. To purchase a table for the 2026 Celebration of Excellence Gala in the amount of $360 plus GST to be funded from the operating budget.
Councilor Zawicki, seconding it. All right. All in favor? All in favor? Motion carried.
Thank you.
All right.
Our next item is item 7.1.5. Administration is proposing a new proclamation and letter of support policy in order to provide guidance through a standardized process for the submission and consideration of these requests by council. The new policy would also provide clarity to the public regarding the types of requests that may be considered by council. So administration did bring this policy to the Committee of the Whole on April 14th. And the report and the background information that was presented then is attached in Appendix B. The Committee of the Whole directed administration to bring the policy to council with recommended revisions. So those recommendations have been incorporated. And so what we did specifically was we did revise section 4.5C to clarify that proclamations or letters of support may still be issued for organizations from outside the town boundaries if they can demonstrate a direct benefit or an impact to our community. And we also updated section 2.1 to add or of interest to the town to align with language in section 6.1C. So these changes to the process are intended to both ease the administrative burden of processing these requests and to align with the town's commitment to transparent, structured, and accountable decision-making processes. There is no financial implications to this policy, and it is in line with our strategic policy pillar number 2, our strategic plan, I should say, which is to develop a healthy and thriving community. And Drumheller does deliver infrastructure services and partnerships that support health, safety, mobility, recreation, and overall quality of life for our residents. The public participation strategy is we will inform the public of this newly established process on our website, and we will make it as an accessible online request form. Thank you.
All right. Any questions? Councilor Zawicki.
Yeah, I guess this looks good. I'm just wondering if letter of support and proclamation are kind of close enough together to put into one policy, or maybe there should be two policies. Like a letter of support, I think, as it says there, this could be integral to grant application, and can be very formal kind of a document, and might need a fair amount of time and attention from communication to draft it. And I'm thinking of some of the support letters for some of the community facility enhancement programs that, like Midland, I mean, they got what, $600,000 or whatever. So it has to be a real formal kind of a document, whereas a proclamation to me is more, this is Earth Day tomorrow and we proclaim that. So I'm just wondering, I mean, it's good to put them together, but I'm just wondering if they're kind of close enough to keep in one policy, or maybe there should be two policies.
Through the chair, I actually had the similar thought. Ledge Services was able to, I felt through this policy, tie together the components of them as that were relatable and kind of parallel in this document, but still providing a definition between the individual two different processes. So I thought it was combined together well, but we could do them separately too. I was 50-50 on it, to be honest.
Yeah, just one other comment on 4.5C, the additional red there. I'm just wondering about the wording of that. So presence in the town of Drumheller and does not demonstrate a direct benefit to or impact on the community. And I would add a positive impact on the community, or I would just simply take out the rest of that phrase. Does not demonstrate a direct benefit to the community. So I just see that as a little bit wordy, and maybe like impact, we are assuming that's a positive impact, but it doesn't say that. But it says benefit, so why do you need the positive impact?
Did you want to add to that?
Through the chair, we could choose one or keep both, and instead of wording it as it is, say, and does not demonstrate a direct benefit or impact, a direct positive impact on the community. We could add the word positive in there. That's because you're right, there could be a negative impact as well. This is specific to the proclamation. Oh no, this is proclamation and letter of support. So we can tighten that up if council so wishes, or we can and bring it back to the next meeting. Or if you like, what we can do is before the end of this meeting, we can prepare some revised wording and bring it back to council if somebody would like to table it first, and then we can bring it back.
Deputy Mayor Clough.
Well, prior to the tabling, that same phrase, I believe it should be or does not demonstrate as opposed to and, because or and makes that as an addition as opposed to. So how it reads right now, it's saying that does not maintain a presence in the town and does not demonstrate it. It should be or. The way I read it.
I would agree. It's three different things, and whether you hit any one of those three is the point. It's not that it's two and then one. Agreed. Thank you.
So I would make a motion to table this till later in the meeting.
Seconder, Councillor Miller. All in favor? Okay. On to the next one then. That'll be our flood mitigation program.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm Dagan Blakely. I'm the Flood Mitigation Program Director. And this evening I am bringing back to Council a request regarding the Drought and Flood Protection Program grant funding that we spoke about last week at the Committee of the Whole meeting. So just as a reminder, the Flood Office, anticipating running short of funding, had applied for an application or had applied for a grant through the Drought and Flood Protection Program, or DFPP, from the provincial government back in 2024. Due to the rules at that time, our grant application was turned down as we had already received a previous DFPP grant and had other provincial funding. But they since changed the rules, and we were provided with a letter of award for the grant very recently in April. And so the project that we had put forward at the time was to construct adaptive fill for the communities of Midland and Newcastle. So that involves purchasing and stockpiling clay materials, and then purchasing as well some flood tube material, and construction of the temporary stop log facility at the Rosedale berm. Under the grant program, the town is required to provide 30% of the funding, which would be $144,000, and the province has committed $337,000 of funding to go towards construction and purchase of those projects. And so the source of the funding for the town administration is recommending come from capital reserve, and that does need to be town funding. We can't leverage other grant funding from the province, which is the funding that we have remaining. As well, when I was here last week, there were some additional questions just about when the temporary adaptive fill would be required. And so I have prepared a few slides just to share with council on that this evening. So the question on what were past flood events and what's our current design flood, just so you have the numbers in front of you. The 2005 event was the largest, most recent flood, and that was 1,450. The 2013 flood event peaked at 1,270. And our current design flood is the regulated 1 in 100 year flow on the Red River of 1850. And then in terms of when the spill occurs at these areas where we're looking at constructing the adaptive fill, I had some of my numbers a little bit off. So Midland Berm does actually overtop at 1690 on the concrete wall section, but we've heard it is potentially only structurally stable to 1450. I think I had reported 1450 as the design flow last time. Newcastle Berm, it overtops at a flow rate of 1600, but the road elevation there where the Jersey barriers sit that form part of the barrier is closer to 1430 cubic meters per second. And because of some misalignment of the Jersey barriers, there may be some leakage in between different sections. So we might see water starting to seep through there at 1430. The other couple of areas in Newcastle where we are looking at the temporary adaptive fill are 1750, where it crosses Newcastle Trail, and then the berm through the park at 1450. It will start to overtop. On the downtown berm, the spray park end, we need a little bit of a flood tube there just for freeboard, so it won't overtop until that 100-year flood, but all of our berms have that half meter extra just in case. And then at the Rosedale Suspension Bridge area crossing, the river will spill out there at 1,500 cubic meters per second if those stop logs are not put in place. So that's just the additional information for the questions that were asked last week. And so I will now leave it with council to make a decision on accepting the grant funding.
All right. Any questions on that? Councilor Zarisky?
Yeah, I don't understand. So I thought when the dikes were finished, they would be protected to the 1850, and this says no. So could you explain? Like I don't quite understand what the difference is. Like it says in Newcastle Park, for example, huge dike through there, and it says this is only good to 1450.
So there's a small area on the berm that's lower than the 1850 design flow rate. And that's where the road goes over top of the berm. So we wouldn't have been able to keep the road in there and have the berm design as it was. So the decision was made at the time to keep the road. And then we would purchase temporary measures like flood tubes, or we would bring in earth fill on a temporary basis to fill in the short gap. So given the warning time that we have in Drumheller for floods, these are easily doable sections to fill in.
Yeah, okay, so now I get it. So all of these things are what it would be right now minus the adaptive fill. But the adaptive fill would bring all of these up to the 1850.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think these are just the spots in the berms that needed to be left open for convenience. Yeah, that's for convenience, and then the ask for the dirt is, and the what do you call it? The stop logs for Rosedale. Those are the things that are this ask is for, right? Yeah, the grant funding.
Yeah, that's correct.
All right, we all got that. Councilor Miller.
Thank you through the chair. I just wanted to thank you for bringing back that extra information from last time. It's a lot clearer now.
Deputy Mayor Kalafa.
I'll move that council includes a temporary flood, adaptive flood protection project in the 2026 capital program for $481,000 to be funded by the Alberta Drought and Flood Protection Program grant in the amount of $337,000 and the town of Drumheller capital reserves in the amount of $144,000.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor McNeil. All in favor? All in favor? Motion carried. Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Ms. Blakely. All right, so we're on 7.3.1 and our Mr. Towns going to be speaking on that. That's our tax rate bylaw, 11.26.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. Yes, so before you tonight is proposed bylaw 11.26, which is the 2026 property tax rate bylaw. So tonight we're asking for first reading of the bylaw with the intention of bringing it back at our May 5th meeting for second and third reading, so we could issue tax bills sometime in the second week of May, due August 31st. So what we've done with this bylaw is we've incorporated the decisions and items that were captured during our 2026 operating budget deliberations. If you recall, at the end of those deliberations, administration identified that tax revenues would need to increase by about 2.93% to capture the adjustments made in the budget. And the results of this bylaw reflect those increases, and I'll talk about that later on in the report. Staff also picked up other changes or adjustments by council during those deliberations, which include the reduction of the minimum tax amount from $500 down to $240, and then the splitting out of some other rates from the established rate. So for example, the vacant residential rate is now going to be its own rate. Same with vacant non-residential. And the machinery and equipment and linear rates will be shown apart from the non-residential or commercial rate as they had been before. Looking at overall assessments, taxable assessments within the town have increased 6.1% compared to the previous year. That's about $69 million more on total taxable assessments of 1.194, just under $1.2 million. Keeping in mind that a 6.1% assessment increase does not equate to a 6.1 tax bill increase or rate burden increase, because we adjust tax rates down to capture our 2.93% revenue increase that is needed. This also reduces the minimum taxes that we will collect from approximately $173,000 last year to an estimate of $46,326 for the upcoming year. So the burden on those properties, which were generally vacant residential and farmland type properties, has been reduced significantly, almost by 75%. Which does give us on the next page the proposed tax rates for 2026. And you will see, as I mentioned, the rates are generally going down, again, to offset for the larger assessment increase. I do also want to remind council that there will be tweaks to this bylaw as it comes up to second and third reading. The assessment appeal period ended yesterday, and the assessor still has the ability and is still making changes to assessments for errors or issues that should be corrected as part of his work. We have received a couple changes since the preparation of this bylaw, so I do know the numbers will change a little bit, but I'm talking, you know, a couple $100,000 in assessment at the very most, from what it seems. In terms of other rates, the education levy is something that we collect on behalf of the province and remit to them. So we're hands off of what that amount is. And within the provincial 2026 budget, they increased that requisition by 15%. However, for the town, we had an over levy last year that we will incorporate this year and in future years, the next 3 additional years, to mitigate that spike. So normally properties would see a corresponding 15% increase to reflect the or to mirror the change on the assessment or the requisition, the education. But for town residents, it'll be closer to 5 or 6% by introducing that over levy amount. Similarly, for seniors housing requisition, their requisition is flat or pretty similar to what they asked for last year. And then with the increased assessment, that rate is going down. So on a typical residential tax bill, properties might experience a couple dollar change there. In terms of designated industrial properties, that is a rate set by the province for certain types of properties. So we have no impact on that. We again just collect and remit that on their behalf, and that remittance is about $4,800 or so. In terms of the tax bill impact, I did math this out. As reported during budget deliberations, we'd need a 2.93% tax revenue increase to balance the budget at the time. Once other factors were considered, we are looking at a 2.91% tax bill increase on the municipal side, so in line with what was discussed and brought up then. In terms of other rates, the education levy, and again, this is the typical single family dwelling, should be going up about 5.63%. Seniors levy less than 1%. So total tax bill on a typical single family dwelling would be 3.43%, dragged up higher than our 2.91% because of the education levy. I did the math quick on a commercial property. Commercial is a little trickier because assessments jump around. For residential, it goes up based on market value. There's other factors that go into commercial. But however, a commercial property that increases by 10%, its assessment, their rate goes down 6.4 or 6.5%. So their tax bill impact is kind of in that 2.93% range also, so it works for commercial type properties. We also talked about this spring the tax burden by category. So if you remember, we had a discussion about 6 weeks ago on how much each category or classification pays, looking at residential, non-residential, and linear type properties. And those percentages that we had discussed and talked about then are in lines with the amount shown. I think they were just over 60% was our historical number for residential, so that's gone down a little bit. The non-residential or commercial was about 32%, so that's gone down quite a bit. And the linear or linear machine or equipment type properties are up to 9%, and their previous year number had been close to the 8, so that's gone up and with the others going down. So as mentioned, there will be minor adjustments that come before council when we talk about this for second and third readings in a couple weeks. In terms of financial implications, The approval of this bylaw will align to our revenue needs that were discussed and identified during our 2026 operating budget deliberations. Strategic policy alignment, this aligns with Pillar 1, providing sustainable services to ensure that those services are sustainable, predictable, transparent, and this is the funding of those services. Public participation strategy, as the bylaw is approved, it will be posted and tax rates will be shown on our town's website. So the recommendation from administration is that council give first reading to the 2026 tax rate bylaw 11.26 as presented.
All right. Any questions from anybody? Councilor Hardy?
Regarding the farmland, I know I like to, when faced with questions, have something to lean against, like our residential taxes. We are in line with other communities our size. Regarding the farmland, are we in line, or will we in line with neighboring counties for farmland taxes?
I don't know that information and I could bring it to the next meeting. I caution looking against our neighboring municipalities. Rural municipality tax structure is significantly different than how we collect taxes. So I could return that information, but I'll also bring comparable information for towns of a similar size. That's probably more relevant if you want to look at a comp against a similar structured municipality against a rural, but that's something I could bring back before second and third reading.
Yes, thank you. I just like to have answers when there's questions, because there's probably going to be questions.
Councilor Zawicki?
Yeah, thank you for the extensive information. I just got back from a housing conference in Edmonton, and one of the things that some of the people were talking about, one of the tables I was at, was vacant residential property. And it seems like in Drumheller we have a considerable number of infill lots, especially, that are vacant and have been vacant for years and years and years and years. And so one of the communities that we were talking to, and I can't remember the name of it, I'm going to say Camrose, but might have been Cochrane, was one of those C communities. Anyways, they were talking about their tax break, and they had something like we had. So we have a tax break for somebody who wants to build a new house on a lot, and we give them a tax break over a few years. But they had also kind of the opposite effect, that if a residential property was sitting vacant for like 5 years, the taxes would actually increase, and they would increase incrementally like every year as an incentive for the person to do something with those lots. So I'm just wondering if you've had any experience with that, if you've heard of that, or if maybe you could research that a little bit, or I could maybe even find in my notes somewhere some information for you. But anyway, so that's one thing. The second thing, just concerning the seniors requisition again. So the seniors requisition as reported here, that's about 50% of the actual requisition. And, it looks like a lot, but the reality is that all of the requisition money goes to properties that are actually located in Drumheller. So even though Drumheller's only paying 50% of the requisition, we kind of have all of the properties and all the benefit of all the seniors housing. So just a comment on those.
Yeah, through the chair, just to comment on, I guess the first point. I pulled a lot of bylaws over the last few weeks, doing a review, and one thing that has jumped out at me are the number of communities that have a vacant residential rate now. That wasn't very common 5 or 10 years ago. And I will say that their rates are significantly higher than the residential rate for for a property with a dwelling. And I think the intention there is to charge a higher rate on a vacant parcel to try to incentivize um, owners to do something with it. Um, so that's a strategy that we could discuss um, over the summer as we go into the 2027 tax season, because I think there's something to be considered there. There's a few things we could do to nudge behaviors, and that's one of them. Um, and council could come up with some type of approach to how do we want to deal with those. The $500 minimum tax amount would have that affected a lot of vacant residential properties last year. That would have done some incentivizing. Knocking it down to 240 will minimize that a bit, but we could look at that tax rate as a mechanism to get people to consider some options that might be beneficial for us, beneficial for them, to try to do some infilling or deal with those vacant lands. And yes, your point about the seniors requisition is correct. We do pay, I think it's 52% of it or something like that, but those properties and ultimate, a lot of those benefits are within the town of Drumheller.
There's some about that vacant properties thing is we might have to, rezone some stuff then, because a lot of stuff is zoned as a residential property that's basically an empty lot beside a museum or, a house in a place where nobody's building anything. So those are the kind of things that, some of those properties where the property is only worth $1,000 and you're charging them $500 for a tax on it. So those are the kind of entanglements that, it sounds like a pretty cut and dried thing, but in our valley, that's the thing, because of the way that the land is laid out here in the river valley, it kind of stops us from effectively doing that. So we'll have to figure out a strategy of a way to get that, accomplished, like you're saying. Anybody else have any more input on that? Deputy Mayor Kalafa.
I'm just curious, sort of an insight into the assessment, increasing by 69 million. I imagine most of that's just driven by the increase in property values, but do we know how much of it is sort of driven either by residential or commercial actual development that's had to raise that, or?
I asked the assessor that question, and the information he's able to provide immediately was difficult to parse out. Um, Anytime he or the assessors make a change to a property, it kind of shows as a new growth category. Um, so, in terms of development, I think you would have to look at, what's actually what do we think's been built in town, whether it's been like 10 houses, 5 houses, and just kind of really rely on that. And I know there's been a little bit of commercial, a little bit of residential. Um, if residential went up 5%, 5.1% like it did, I'm going to assume that less than 1% of that is actually new assessment or growth. Um, but it is a little tricky to parse out by the information the assessor was able to provide. Um, I'll ask him to see if he's able to do that breakout. It's a bit busy time for him, but it's um, I'll see what's available, because it is handy to know.
Well, yeah, it was more for curiosity, and it's nothing pressing. And I guess the other thing that I want to reiterate again is this is probably the most robust budget process that I've gone through in arriving at this conclusion. I really appreciate the work by administration in going through this.
Right on. Anything else? Councillor McNeil?
Thank you for the information. It's excellent. One question I have, and it's because I'm not that familiar with the process. So the tax rate bylaw would be the foundation then, I would assume, for the tax notice. Does council have the opportunity then to also review the tax notice? And the reason I'm asking is because I know through the Alberta Municipalities Association, there were recent changes where the provincial government would then permit municipalities then to state the amount on the tax notice of the municipal portion that then is for the RCMP policing costs. So I was just wondering, do we have the opportunity then to review that tax notice and how it shows the different categories?
Through the chair, I would have to, I'm familiar with the change and I'd have to review the process around that. I don't know if a specific rate would have to be set or levied to show up on the tax bill. We do have, along with the tax bill, an information piece that goes with that we could identify and we will identify, such as education levy, and split that out for residents. So they're familiar and understand that a third of their tax bill is actually for other purposes than municipal. So we will definitely show some of our bigger costs on that information piece. But as for having it on the tax bill, I would have to review and confirm that, because I do believe that needs to be some type of formal levy shown by council within the bylaw rather than just adding it as an information piece to the tax notice itself.
Thank you, that does make sense. So yeah, it would probably then be the information circular or supplement to that tax notice. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, can I get someone to make a motion on this? Deputy Mayor Kalafa?
I move the council give first reading to 2026 tax rate bylaw number 11.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Miller, thank you. All in favor? Okay, motion carries. I'm gonna suggest we take a 5-minute break here. Is that okay? Everybody else? All right, let's take 5 here, folks.
Go into close. Oh, yeah, I guess
Okay.
you're in here too.
Okay.
After Jared.
We're back on the air. Okay, thank you. It is what, 1:45, so it's 6:45. And we're back. So, Mr. Town, you're gonna carry on with our supplementary assessment bylaw 13.26, 7.32 on our agenda.
Yes, through you again.
Thank you.
Administration is looking for first, second, and third reading of a proposed supplementary assessment bylaw 13.26. For those of you who aren't familiar, this is an update to an existing bylaw, and it's virtually identical to the one that was passed last year with a couple cleanups just to do some fixes, and then hopefully we'll never have to see it again. So what this allows us to do is it allows us to do supplementary assessments, which allow for supplementary tax billing during the year to pick up any significant changes to properties due to construction development or for well, those are the reasons: new construction, new development, new growth. Um, so, and those billings normally occur in October or November of the year. So this bylaw allows the assessor to do that. We have a supplementary tax bylaw in place already. What this really changes, the previous bylaw had wording in it that referred to 2025. So it said 2025 supplementary assessment bylaw. But the bylaw also said that the bylaw is in perpetuity until changed. This removes the date, just so it's a little cleaner, easier for people to understand. And if they see it, they don't assume it's just for a singular year. It is something that is in place until repealed by council. So it allows an existing practice. In terms of financial implications, there's really no new financial implications. Allowing supplementary assessments and billings on average brings in probably 5 to 10,000 per year on items that have been identified during the year. We don't include those in the operating budget since we don't know where those numbers will land. So any new assessment or revenue is would just be a benefit to our year-end position. Strategic policy alignment, this aligns with Pillar 1, which is again providing sustainable services to ensure our municipal services are sustainable, predictable, transparent, and supported. This helps that from a financial perspective. And the public participation strategy, once all three readings have been done, this will be available on the town's website, which again, it just replaces an existing or similar version of the one we currently have.
Thank you, Mr. Town. Any questions? Any questions for Mr. Town on this? Nothing from anyone? All right, well, can I get someone to make a motion then? Councillor McNeil?
Sure, thank you. I move that council gives first reading to supplementary assessment bylaw number 13.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Miller? Thank you. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. All right, so then how about our, can I get someone for a second reading? Okay, Councillor Miller?
I move that council give second reading to supplementary assessment bylaw number 13.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Hanson? Any discussion on this? No questions, nothing there. Okay, so then, all in favor? Okay, all in favor, motion carried. All right, so now This is the one that got me last time. Okay, so I get unanimous consent. Deputy Mayor Kalapa.
I move that council give unanimous consent for third and final reading of supplementary assessment bylaw 13.26.
Okay, thank you for that. And then can I get a seconder on that? Councillor Hardy. And all in favor there? Okay, that one carries, so that's that. And then, so now we go for our final motion. Councillor Zarisky.
I move the council give third and final reading to supplementary assessment bylaw number 13.26 as presented.
Thank you for that. And a seconder, Councillor Hanson. And no more questions, so all in favor then? All in favor, motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tom. No, is there one more? Is there one more for you too? Holy cow. Okay.
So through you, this is a request for decision on amending the 2026
Okay.
operating budget.
Wow.
So after the finalization of the budget in December, there's there's been a couple items that we've identified that we would like council to consider as we amend, and then ultimately get approval for these items. So we're seeking to do that through this report. Again, the Municipal Government Act stipulates that we must adopt a balanced budget, and we're doing this before the final reading of our tax rate bylaw to incorporate these changes. However, saying that, administration's recommendation is to capture the new items and the impact on the operating budget as a draw from our operating reserve, so we don't impact tax rates and increase that expected percentage that we had talked about earlier. So in terms of items that have been identified to date and are within this report, I'll speak to them really quickly. Drumheller Solid Waste Management Association, that was an item that we've learned is $8,410 more than budgeted. Ultimately, it's due to a calculation error that was the amount that we had in our proposed budget that was approved. The amount was actually different, the requisition by the Solid Waste Authority. So we'd like authority for council to approve this. That ultimately gives us authority to send them the total requisitioned amount. This might have an impact on 2027 as we decide how to deal with it. And this would be under the, since we pay for solid waste management through rates, so the garbage rate, this might be an amount that we have to capture as part of our 2027 increase and might bump up the rate that we need to charge for garbage pickup a little bit more than we would have expected. So we'll identify this and talk about it as we do our 2027 budget. But this is something that could be an impact to that. Second item is under the province of Alberta, and just a really quick history. Approximately 6 or 7 years ago, the province started charging for DNA casework or biologic casework, which is a pooled cost across the province that is apportioned back to municipalities depending on their uptake of the service. So in this case, our historic costs have been in the $13,000-14,000 range, and that's predicated on pool costs across the province of about $900,000, and then us utilizing the service approximately 6 times per year. For last year, two things happened. That pool cost went up from $900,000 to about $1.45 million. So there's more cost to be spread. Plus the utilization of it went from 6 cases on average to 16. So those two changes are causing our bill to increase from 13,284 last year to, let me pull up the information, $48,996 this year. We budgeted 11,000 based on prior year history, so this is a significant budget adjustment that we'd like to capture and again have authority to deal with. Third item are legal fees. The amount that we had budgeted for the organization, again, this is for all the legal within the organization, so human resources, planning, engineering, procurement, like everything, based on estimates that we believe we're incurring or going to incur, leaning on some of those services a bit more. We're requesting an additional $30,000 um, to envelop what we think all the legal costs will be for the year. The fourth one is RCMP costs, and this actually is a beneficial one for us. So RCMP contract costs are based on, again, some pool costs that are assigned or apportioned to municipalities. And then there's per member cost. So right now the per member cost is about $173,000 per member. And we're allocated 11 on a budget perspective, but that's reduced to reflect actual at the detachment. And that actual number for their fiscal year, which is April 2025 to March 2026, is, I do believe I have the number here. The staffing allocation to us is closer to 9 or 8.5 instead of 11. So we're saving 2.5 positions at $173 per year. This will hit us in 2026, so 2026 billing. And we're proposing that we recognize that because of that savings, we don't need about $400,000 of that budget. So, that's something that would come off. We're not saying change the budget, because when we do this next year in 2027, we're going to budget a similar amount, because those staffing, there's absences because of parental leaves or maternity leaves or injury or something like that. Normally it's half a position, maybe one. So this isn't a long-term benefit, but it is something that is a singular year benefit for us in 2026. The final item here is under land sales, and this relates to the sale of the hospital site. Just a really brief history here. I actually don't know the history of the site, but there was, the town did take possession and ownership of it. There was significant remediation that happened there. A lot of those costs were capitalized, but some of them were kept within our operating budget, and they were shown as a land inventory amount for the town, and that number was about $550,000. When we sold the property, that $240,000, we had to introduce those costs. So the net proceeds on that land sale, and proceeds is opposite of what I should say. That the loss on the sale of that asset was $344,500. This is a one-time item. So, there was the definite advantage to dealing with the property, getting in a state where it could be resold and developed, and there'll be future benefits there. So I don't want to say it's a cost of doing business, but it's a little bit of a cost of doing business to get there. So, but this is the financial impact of that in 2026. So there was a financial loss. Fortunately, this is offset by that RCMP benefit we're going to see, and so are some of the other ones. And overall, the net financial implication is, once you add up all those items, we are looking for an additional $20,906 to increase the budget. As I said before, staff are requesting that those monies come from our operating reserve, which, when you look at the town's reserves, they stand at 5.3 million as a projection to the end of the year. This is less than 0.5% of those reserves to maintain tax rates. And since these are more one-time items rather than, you know, built-in budget institutional items, the draw from a reserve does make sense to not spike or negatively impact our tax rates. And again, we'll monitor these and report back to council. You'll see these within variance report items. In terms of strategic policy alignment, this again aligns with Pillar 1, which is providing sustainable services and the financial herewithal to do that. And under strategic intent P13, which is that financial and capital decisions are driven long-term and data-driven. From a public participation perspective, these changes will be reflected on our municipal budget page on the website. This will change some of the numbers on our gross expense number on our final tax rate bylaw, but it will not change the requisition amount or the proposed tax rates for these purposes. Staff recommendation is that council approve the amended operating budget with a total expenditure of $32,514,149, which is $20,906 more than what was previously approved. With a tax levy that is the same as what was presented before at $12,136,732, and that $20,906 be transferred from the town's contingency reserve to the operating budget to balance.
Thank you, Mr. Town. Any questions? Councilor Zarisky.
Yeah, thank you for the report. Some good news, some not so good news. Just concerning the old hospital. It looks like, you know, quite a bit of money that we kind of lost on that. But let me tell you, it was worth it. And as Greg can attest, we had actually the opportunity to go into that old hospital a couple of times. It was the most disgusting thing you would ever see in your life. Absolutely, totally wrecked, disgusting, terrible. And I compliment Greg and his department on getting the health inspectors involved and getting the fire department involved and getting that horrible, I refer to it as the pimple on the nose of the beautiful face of Drumheller, because it was just absolutely horrible. And Pat living in proximity to it and all the drug use in there, and just, so you look at this as, you know, money, yeah, we spent some money on it, but absolutely necessary. I am a little bit interested and maybe a bit dismayed at the sale price of that property at $240,000. Now, I'm not sure who came up with that price. Maybe Pat has more of a recollection than me, but literally this is the first time I have seen that price. And I'm going, holy mackerel. I mean, that's like a half-acre lot on the river that was subdivided into what, 8 lots now, I think, at least. And we sold the whole property for $240,000, which seemed to be, you know, quite a bit less than what I would have expected. But I guess it is what it is, and maybe that was the assessed value of it, I would imagine. Anyways, just a little bit of background there.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor, Deputy Mayor Kalapa.
I'll just add to that, when you say that it's been divided into 8 lots, that's 8 residential properties that we will be able to, you know, realize an assessment in taxes from. So you can do, you know, the finger math and see that this money will be realized in not a very long time.
Anybody else have anything to add or question about? No? Not seeing anything. Can I get someone to make a motion then? Deputy Mayor Kalapa.
Just a point of clarification, do I make these all as one motion or do these two separate motions?
These are two separate motions.
Okay. So I'll move the council approve the town of Drumheller's amended 2026 operating budget with a total expenditure of 32,500 or 32,514,149, resulting in a tax levy of 12,136,732 as presented.
Okay, thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councilor Zarisky. No further questions. And all right, so let's take a vote. All in favor? Okay, motion's carried. Can I get a seconder? Do we have to, no, we're not there. Now we have to go for the second one. Yeah, the second motion. Okay, yeah, Councilor Hardy, sorry.
I move that council approves the transfer of $20,906 from the town's contingency reserve to the 2026 operating budget.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councilor McNeil, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. All right. Now where are we at? Okay. We got the adjustments. We got our Director of Infrastructure Services, Mr. Brownstein.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before you tonight is a request for a budget transfer or reallocation for single phase-based entry equipment. Administration is requesting council transfer of approximately $30,000 from our light equipment fund to purchase this confined space entry and rescue system. It has been noted by not only myself, but my management team that we do not possess the necessary confined space entry equipment to do most of the work we're required to do. So in order to make this purchase happen, I needed a budget transfer within the capital system to allow for this purchase. We have many confined spaces within the municipality. We do confined space entry on a regular basis. Upon finding out that we don't have sufficient equipment, I have ceased all confined space entry. So currently we are not doing any. So there are some critical maintenance paths that need to be completed and we need the equipment to do it. So hence this request for a budget transfer. So this reallocation does not require additional funding. So this is again part of the existing capital program. So we're just using unspent funds within our light fleet capital fund. So we are actually $36,000 under budget on our light fleet purchase. So I'm asking for $30,000 of that to be reallocated to purchase this confined space entry equipment. It does fall within our strategic policy alignment under Pillar 1, providing sustainable services. And with the strategic content, financial and capital asset decisions that are long-term and data-driven. There are alternate directions before council tonight. That council accepts the 2026 capital budget reallocation request for a confined space entry, confined space equipment report as information, and that council accepts the 2026 capital budget reallocation request for a confined space equipment report as information, and further request administration to bring the topic forward for deliberation at a future council meeting. However, the recommendation from administration is that council approves the purchase of the Davin Arm confined space entry and rescue system to a maximum of $30,000, and it be funded from the 2026 light fleet or light truck capital program budget.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions from anyone? I know I sure do. This is a safety issue. You can't do any work without having this equipment. So to me, it's a non-issue. It's a safety gear. Councilor Zarisky.
Yeah, the only question I would have is why now? Did we need this equipment 6 months ago, 2 years ago? Like why do we need this equipment now, but we didn't last year, or we didn't, you know what I'm saying? Like,
So through the chair to Councilor Risky, we've always needed this equipment. The difference is you've got a management team that actually pays attention. So we were doing confined space entries that were not what I call on par with OH&S. Yeah, not a pat on the back. I was not impressed, Councilor Zarisky. This was not something that I was very happy to hear that we were doing, nor appreciative of the fact it was being let to be done. So hence why the stop and all confined entry happened and happened immediately. So this is equipment that is needed to allow us to continue to do the work that we do safely.
Councillor McNeil.
I'm certainly in favor of this. I just have one quick question. With respect to the tripod system, from reading the request for decision, I have the sense that you would not use that anymore. So could that be sold to another municipality?
So the current tripod system is what I would call in disrepair. Trying to sell it off would be nigh on impossible. It's aged out. It does not have the proper retrieval equipment on it or anything like that. Hence why we've ceased all confined space entry. So this piece of equipment provides us with that versatility that we need to do our entries.
Thank you.
This piece of equipment's important to me because my name's at the top of the list. And we're interested in making sure they have the tools to do their work jobs safely. So that's important to me. Councillor Hanson. All right. I don't think there's any more I don't think there's any more discussion. Can I get someone to make a motion? Councillor Miller.
I move that council approves the purchase of a David arm confined space entry and rescue system to a maximum of $30,000 to be funded from the 2026 light truck capital program budget.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Councillor McNeil. And all in favor? Motion carried. Okay, that's that. Now we have our tabled topic from earlier, which one was it?
Yes, Your Worship, administration is requesting a motion that council lift from the table item number 7.1.5, proclamation and letter of support policy.
Can I get someone to make that motion? Councillor McNeil.
Yes, I move that council then lifts from the table the proclamation and letter of support policy under 7.1.5.
Thank you. Can I get a seconder? Councillor Zarisky. All in favor? Okay, motion carried. All right.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to recap, we're looking at item C under the policy wording. So as we were reviewing it, I was reminded that during this conversation around, it was around the fact that we're asking this of people that do not maintain a presence in the town of Drumheller. So specifically, the clarity needed to be that for those that that do not maintain a presence in the town of Drumheller, that they need to demonstrate a direct benefit to the community with their request, or that they need to have a positive impact on the community. So the proposed wording that, the rewording of item C is are proposed by a sponsoring organization or applicant that does not maintain a presence in the town of Drumheller that, and then subheader number 1, does not demonstrate, or sorry, I already messed it up. 1 second. Let me restate that. So item C is are proposed by a sponsoring organization or applicant that does not maintain a presence in the town of Drumheller that does not, 1, demonstrate a direct benefit to the community, or 2, does not have a positive impact on the community, period. So with that amendment to the wording, administration is going back to our recommended motion would be that council adopts a proclamation and letter of support policy as amended.
Councillor Zavisky?
Yeah, I move that council adopts the proclamation and letter of support policy as amended.
Okay, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Miller? And all in favor? Okay, motion carries with those changes. All right, thank you for that. And now we will go back over to, item 8, a closed session. So we will need a motion to go into closed session now.
Your worship, just a quick comment on the motion to go into closed session. We did originally have multiple ATIA sections for this item, but we do only require it under ATIA 26, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations. Thank you.
Okay, with those adjustments, do I have someone to make a motion? Councillor Miller?
I move that council closes the meeting to the public at 7:15 p.m. to discuss intergovernmental relations as per ATIA 26, disclosure harmful to intergovernmental relations.
Thank you for that. Can I get a seconder? Okay, Deputy Mayor Kalapa. All right, and all in favor? Okay, motion carried. That'll be the end of our broadcast for here this evening. So thank you for joining us, and think better of each other.